So welcome, guys. Welcome, everyone. It's let's say it's good afternoon Nigerian time. I don't know what time zone you are. So welcome, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever your time zone is. We have about 5 people joining in. So please share a message on your Discord server, letting others know that the class have started. You can join in using Twitch or YouTube. Anyone, it's fine. So welcome, guys. Welcome once again. So currently we have Charles on the call. Charles happens to be a senior front end developer at Binge in Accra, Ghana. So thank you, Charles, for making it here. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and your efforts.
You're welcome, and thank you guys for having me here also.
All right. So we're just giving a minute more. So once it's 12:03, you can start. The class is all yours.
All right.
Okay. Okay, guys, keep dropping a message on your server. Let everyone know that we are live. Okay, good. So I think we are good to go, Charles. So the floor is all yours.
All right. Thank you. So, hello guys. My name is Charles Kabanawa, and I'll be your instructor for today's lesson. So, if if you're still confused on why you're here, I think we are here for the web development fundamental course on HTML and CSS basics, right? So I'm guessing that everyone here is a beginner who wants to get into web development, if I'm right. And also, if you have some sort of experience with HTML or CSS or in building website, but maybe you want to take this course to refresh your understanding on it, you let me know in the comment section so that I'll not be maybe moving too slow. I'll know maybe all of you guys have some sort of experience or you've heard about HTML and CSS, or you've used it for some sort of maybe tutorials or something. You've watched some tutorials on it before, so you let me know. Then I'll know if I should just speed up the whole process or take my time with it. So I will be your instructor for today. My name is Charles once again, and yes, I will start. If anybody has a quick introduction to do or a quick question to ask on the course we're about to begin, you should just speak and then I'll be here to assist. Okay, so Prince is a beginner. That's good. I'm a newbie. Okay, so I'm getting more of newbies and beginners. Okay, I'll take my time. Don't worry. All right, all right. So since we all agree that we are all beginners, I'm going to take it from scratch. So HTML and CSS is the building blocks for web development. So for you to be a web developer, the first thing you have to learn is HTML and CSS. And then there's a debate out there whether HTML it's a programming language or it's a markup language. People say it's a programming language. People disagree that it's a markup language. But to my understanding, it's more of a markup language than a programming language because HTML doesn't actually you don't command it to perform a task. You just build an interface with it. You just there are blocks in it that just helps you to build an interface, right? So it doesn't really do any scripting or heavy tasks or any programming tasks. You understand? So it's more like a markup language. It's more like let's say the software version or programming version of a Microsoft Word. How you just pick out bold a paragraph and just write a letter, right? Or create a document in Word. It's the same way HTML works. So HTML is a markup language, okay? So it's not really that intense. So don't let your mind take you too far that you're going to be doing some crazy, some complex technical stuff. It's really easy to get your hands on HTML and then feel very comfortable with it. So that we are going to have a coding session in the next 30 minutes. For now, I'm going to go through the basic understanding of HTML and how you can like the basic understanding and have some basic knowledge around HTML. So that's for HTML. So in HTML, we have something we call building blocks. So the building blocks are called elements, right? So elements are just building blocks. So just take elements are what we use to build HTML pages. So when I take a page like let's use Top Universe landing page or website, this very beautiful one. So you can see everything you see on this page is done with HTML, right? So from the top all the way to the bottom, all the way here, everything is done with HTML and CSS. So I'm going to do a quick let me go to what so this expect thing from the browser, it helps you to expect the code, right? So when you inspect the code, you see all the codes used to write this application. So right from looking here, I can tell this was built in Vue.js using Next, right? Like I know stuff, so I'll probably know what technology was used to build this, but it's still the basics. You can see these are all elements used to build the website. These are all HTML, and these are available on the on the view layer, right? So these are all HTML, nothing too complex, and a little bit of CSS. So I'm going to show you what's like a quick intro on what, and after that we'll probably look at how we can build something like this in a very short time, okay, with this HTML I'm talking about. So the building elements are, let's say, a paragraph, a links. I'm going to be um let me be doing them here so that you would see. So I'm going to create a file. I'm going to call this index.html, right? I'm going to explain that later, and I'm going to create another file called style.css. Um, let me right. Okay, cool. So this is an HTML document, okay? So for you to start writing HTML or any form of web stuff, you need to create an HTML document. And an HTML document is created using the HTML extension. Now, HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Hypertext Markup Language. So you can see it's a markup language, right? Right. So that's what HTML stands for. And for you to do any form of web development, your files needs to be in HTML extension. So this is how you're going to create your HTML file. It's like how when you create if you're a Photoshop designer, when you create a Photoshop file, you save it in a PSD, right? If it's an image, it will be in a .png. .jpeg. It's the same way if it's an HTML document, you are going to save it in a .html syntax, right? Now the index here it could be anything. It's not you're not tied to creating it in there. I can have another file called about.html. I can even have another file called charles.html. But the reason why index is the entry point, so that means that when someone opens topuniverse.org, this first page that you see is called index. Is the index page. You could name it home, but then um co- uh, you have to do some customization to tell the web that home means index. But in the basic understanding, index is just that your first entry point to a website. So when I open any website, can someone give me a website to open, and I'll use that for example. Let me get. I think I'm the only one talking, so maybe someone can send a website. I can just open and then explain. Anyone? Okay, twitter.com. All right, so let's see. Once I go to twitter.com, you can see when I go to twitter.com and I hit enter, you're waiting for it to load. Right. So this first page is the index page. This first page is the index.html page. So it's the first entry point to your website, right? Good. So that is if that is clear. Um, yeah. I don't know if this font is visible enough. Maybe I can increase the font or the sizes. Uh, guys, let me know. Is it visible enough? Oh, I'm still getting more of the website wise.com, google.com. Okay. So if I see my screen, I want to know if the code here is visible enough. Okay, it's not. Okay. Let me. Uh, is this okay? This looks. um, okay. Well, I guess this is more visible then. Maybe 22. All right. Is this visible? All right. Better. Thanks. Thanks. All right. Okay. So to begin an HTML document, um, okay. First of all, for me to get into the coding, um let me ask some questions. Is it clear now on what HTML is and what it does? Like, do you now understand what? I mean, if you leave this class and somebody asks you what is HTML, what does it do? How would you answer that? Is my explanation good, or can I go over? Very good. Okay. All right, so I'm assuming everything is clear on what HTML does. Okay, good. So for you to begin writing HTML codes, there are some needful things to do. They are more like settings, right? So I'm gonna explain through what all this thing does. So this is just HTML tag. So in HTML, anytime you see this bracket close, bracket close, bracket open, it's a tag. You can call it a tag or you can call it an element. Okay. You can call it an HTML element or an HTML tag. So anytime you see this, it means it's an element. And then there are some descriptions that go inside this element. So you can see at the top here we have HTML. So we have HTML and then you close it here. It's like a window. You open it here and then you close it. So there's a backlash. The backlash here closes it. So now everything inside here from here to here, if you write ABC, whatever you write here, is going to assume that you are writing HTML, right? So the code assumes that anything here is HTML. So before you begin to write any HTML, you have to wrap your whole document in HTML. So you can see from the declarement I've done here, you can see everything is in here. Everything is inside the HTML. It closes here. So even when I highlight it, my text editor tells me it starts from here and it ends here. So everything goes here. Nothing comes, anything you write outside here, you are not going to see it on the screen. It's not going to be shown on the screen because it's outside your document. Right. So the first thing, the first thing you do is that you're going to declare a head. Now this head is more like um it's more like this. So you can see there's something here. When you hover on any tab on your browser, you're going to see a title there and some description there, and there's a logo on the side of it. So all those things goes into this head, right? This head, right? Now, meta is just metadata. So metadata is like extra data, extra predefined data to tell us what this document is or what it does, right? So we can also have something like um, we can have a metadata called description or content. Yeah, we have a metadata called content, and sorry, name can be description. Sorry, name can be description. The content is the content of your website. So this can be what your website does, right? So a quick introduction would be like a brief introduction to what your website does. So when I come here, I can see when I hover on top universe, I can see that you can see the title is top universe, and then there's a description that's saying topuniverse.org. It's the same for here. It's the same for here. So those information goes into the meta data. I'm not going to go much details here because these are like extras you can do. I think you guys are here to learn how to build like basic stuff, right? And then the title is just document. So the title is basically what goes at the top here. So you can see this title is called Web Development Fundamentals, very long title. This is another title. StreamYard is another title. So that's what goes into the title, right? Cool. So you can see everything is done in the tag. So you can see the title also opens like this and then it closes here. So everything you write here will be a title, right? So what you have to take notice in HTML is the names of these things because these things is what you are going to use to define what you want to do, right? If you don't know these names of title, how do you define a title? You can't just write a title anywhere. So these are the things that you have to always keep in mind, or it has to be in your head, or you have to understand what they do. You don't have to memorize everything, but you have to understand that title does this, head does this, right? Okay. So now this is the head. You don't have to waste too much time on the head because this head are predefined. You can see I even didn't have to code this. I just typed doc type and then my editor just gave me the necessary things I need. That means that these things are they are there for you all the time to include, right? Okay, and then we have the meta name called viewpoint. So viewpoint is basically your device width. Okay, so viewpoint helps the website to scale. So if I take top universe and I try to scale, it is not a responsive side of it, but it's just it gives the website a standard viewpoint. So there's some standard practices that every website should follow, and then when you use that, that's what the viewpoint does. It gives you the standard width of a device to give. But we'll come to responsiveness and all that. That's another session. So with all these things declared, you can start coding HTML in your body. You can see there's a body. Now the body is where you actually write your HTML. The head is where you declare most of your settings. The body is where you write your main HTML. So that's where you have to keep in mind of the things you have to do. So here I'm going to list a couple of tags. We are going to save this file. We are going to run this file and see how it appears or how it shows in the browser. So I'm just going to save it for now, and I'm going to run a live server. So I'm not going to go into that yet. So you can see when I ran it, nothing showed. But we can see we have a title here called document with a domain name, right? Good. So nothing showed here. So what we can do is that we're going to write something in the body. So all this white space you see, that's the body. The head is just the title, this part of it. Everything here in this big white space, that is the body. So we can write maybe welcome here. We can just write a normal text. When we see welcome here. So that means that now HTML is giving us the power to do anything. So you can see with top universe, they've actually coded it and styled it with CSS. But now the only power we have here is HTML. So what if you want to do something like this in a very short, meaningful time? So whilst I'm doing that, you'll be learning the tags, right? So we're going to have the first tag, and I'm going to explain block elements, and then we have block elements and then normal elements. So we have block elements. So block elements are elements that starts on a new line. So example is a paragraph. I'm going to say the P paragraph P GH. Okay. We have a paragraph. So a paragraph is the same as when you're writing a letter and then they say leave a paragraph. That means leave a space with the first text and then a new text. So in HTML, a paragraph is just represented by P. Now, P is a paragraph, okay? P is a paragraph. I don't want to use the auto completion. So P is a paragraph. This thing. Yeah. So P is a paragraph. And to write a paragraph, it's the same thing. HTML, don't miss the open and closing bracket. Then you put P here and then P here. So everything you write here is a paragraph. So let's write two paragraphs. We have first first paragraph. We have second paragraph. So paragraph is also a block element. Okay, so I'm going to put it here. So block elements, we have a paragraph which is represented by P, right? That's the first one. So when we save this, what do we see? We have first paragraph, second paragraph. Okay, so there's a block element. If I write here hello something, it's not going to start on a new line. Oh, sorry. I mean, since paragraph starts on a new line, everything that follows, which is not in the paragraph, is going to move to a new line because it doesn't know what it is, right? So let's say I write another block element will be a div. Oh shit, it's div. Okay, so div. So in web development, divs are more like everything. You can use people even use divs to create a whole website. They don't even use paragraphs or sessions or anything. They use divs to create a whole website. Divs is like division. It's like an empty box. It's an empty box that you haven't styled. So if I write div here, this div means that it's more like give me some space. Give me a space in the web, an empty space in the web. But it's not styled, so you're not going to really see what it does. So if I write here first div or box, right? You can call it a box. It's a box that has no length, no width, nothing. It's just an empty box. It works. You can see the power of this when you start using CSS. But for now, let's say we have an empty box. Okay, so we have it here. Um, we have another block element. We have session. Session is also a block element. Session, people don't really use session these days because devs are doing all the work. It's also like a box, but the block elements are used for Google searches, like search optimization. There are search optimization tools. Really confusing because you don't know what that is, but that is fine. So we have paragraphs, we have sessions, we have divs, we have anchor tags are not block elements because they don't start on a new line. You can put them in between in between tests. Okay, so those are not block elements. We also have as aside. Aside is when you want to put stuff on side of things. So what would be a perfect example for this? Um, so let's say you want to pushing something on the left side or right side. You can put them in the aside tag. Well, it will not automatically move to the side, but you have to still style it. Okay, you have to still style it to say move here, move here. So it's not something that people actually use these days. These days, people just use the diffs and then we style it. So, I think what you have to keep in mind mostly is the most used cases, the most used element you are going to use. So you have the div, then I'll come back and explain. I think you already know what the divs are. We have the divs, we have the paragraph, which is represented by P. We have anchor tags. I'll explain that we have links, li. We have an ordered links, ul. We even have ol as ordered links. Um, we have span, very important tag. Well, yeah, I think I was playing this. This is enough to actually, you can use this few element to actually build a whole website. So like I said, divs are just boxes, okay? This is boxes. And paragraph is just like that. It's a paragraph. You can write any text you write here will start on a new line. So it's a paragraph. And we have anchor tags. So anchor tags are links. So it is represented by A. Anchor tags are links. So let's say I want to put a link here to Facebook. I'll just write Facebook. No, let me use Twitter. Okay, google.com. Let me use Google. Then anything I put here will be a link. So when I save this, I come here, you can see it's highlighted. Links are automatically styled. They're highlighted. There's an underline. And when I click it, I get google.com. I have to do the HTTPS thing. Oh, wrong. Well, I'm coming. See. Okay. Ah, I missed one H. Sorry. Okay. Right. So it's a link. So when you come here, so let's say you click on, so that's a link. Okay, that's a link is um a link that leads you to another page. The page could be internal, the page could be external. So this link is an internal because it doesn't open anything outside of Top Universe. All the links are inside of Top Universe, so it's an internal link. When I click on home, it routes back to the home page. So external links are like join server. You see that moves to an external website. So it comes to Discord. So that's an external link. So, but or you can use the A tags to represent them, and then you name them here. So these are links. There's more attributes to it, but we'll come to that. So anytime you write a tag, let me finish with that. We have also li. So li is just links, list items. Sorry, list items. So I can do li, and it means that everything here is going to be listed. Okay, it's going to be listed in one, two, three, A, B, C, whatever way you want to list them. But if I don't tell HTML I want to actually list an item, it's still going to see this as a listed item, but then it won't list anything. If I write hello, I am a list, and I save it, it's a blank list. So it just says hello, I'm a list. Um nothing. It's just a one list. If I add another one, it's just there like that. So it's just listing them like that. So to put them in order, you are going to use the UL. So UL means an ordered list. You know how a list, some use bullet points, some use one, two, three, some use A, B, C, and all that. So an ordered list is that this list is not in any particular order. You are just listing them. Then you copy this list inside. Okay, so this is a matured way of doing it. You don't see any difference. The only difference is that you see there's a pattern, there's a margin space to the left, and if I remove this, is right to the corner. So this gives the notion that let's say we are writing a letter. Okay, let's say we're writing a letter. Let me copy a test. Um, all right, so we have this test here, and then we have the same test also here. And then maybe in between this test, we have to list some items. Okay, we can do that. We can use the li, and then we can wrap. So the difference is that when I list the items here, well, it still lists the items. We can see when we you can see it still lists the items, but then well, it's okay, it looks good. Others will like it this way, but it would be much better if we can wrap it in an ordered list. So there will be a little space to the left. You can see it. So let's supposing we had the we had the header here saying it's too big, it's too small. Okay, listed item. So it's much more presentable. You know that okay, these are the listed items. A little space, a little margin to the left. Okay, so that's for an ordered list, and then the list item. The li is the list items, and an ordered list is like the mother of those ones. And we have ol is just ordered list. So when I use ol, it gives me one, two, it lists them in order, right? It gives you one, two, three, four, five, and so forth, and so on. And then we have the span. So I'll come to span, but before that, let's talk about the header element. I should have talked about this first, but I think that skipped me. So we have the header elements. So header elements are just, they're also block elements. So you can see something like this written in bold nicely, and they are more presentable, they are more visual. Those are called headers. So those are called headers. And we have six different types of header. We have header one. I'll copy and paste them. We have header two. So header one is the biggest. Header two comes next as smaller than header one. Header three is smaller than header two. And then we go header four, three, two, one, header five. We have six. So you can see we have one very big, two a little big, three smaller than the two, four is smaller than five, and it goes in that and it ends at six, right? So it depending on how you want to present the information. If you look here, well, you can still style them. You can even use header one and style it to look like header six. But then when you're building websites, you need to use them in that sense that header one is always the biggest. So even if you're styling them, don't style it header two should be bigger than header one. No. If you use header one, it's always the boldest, biggest, presentable ones. Good. So when you come here like this, if you look at the page, these are the bigger ones. So I can call this a header one, right? If I expect this, you can see, if you can see my screen, you can see this H1, right? So the big bold ones are mostly H1s, right? And this is a paragraph. This probably be header two or header three, right? So in that sense, this can be a paragraph. So a paragraph is just a text. You can just put a normal text, paragraph text in there. So that's for the headers. And then we have a span. So example of a span is, you see how this whole text is white, but then this read up origin thing has a different color. It could be a link because it's clickable, or it could be a span that is just styled for that color. So let's say we are writing the same thing. We have the same document here. So your manager says that, well, this test looks good, but I want that to learn more or read up to be green so that it's more visible to the person to know that this is what we want you to do. Read more, click it, or something. So to do that, we're going to use the span. So span is an inline element. Inline element means that you can, it is not a block element. It doesn't start from a new line. So when I do this, so I'm going to wrap. My boss says he wants this whole test to be green. So now I have to find a way to differentiate this from the paragraph. It's still all in the paragraph, but I want this to have a different styling or different look altogether. So I'm going to say span, and then I'm going to close it here. So now I've got this in a different element. When I save it, you're not going to see any difference. It's going to look the same because you've not styled it, you've not asked it to do anything. It's just there. So now to style it, and I'll say red. Okay, now when I save that, you can see now that color changed. That just that part turns to red. Okay, so that is for span. So span are inline to style stuff inline of a document, of a text, of a paragraph, of a div, of anything. You can even include span here. Even in the list, I can say I can put a span here and say I want this list to and style it. I can say I want this to be um, violet, violet. Where is it? What did I spell it wrong? Yeah, I spelled it wrong. You can see here it's violet here. Yeah, it's not only colors. Spans are yeah mostly colors, but then it can be used for anything. So another perfect example of a color span is so let's say now your boss says, let this be more maybe bold or more bigger than the actual text to make it more visible for people to actually click. Or maybe we want the committed to be highlighted. You understand? So span is more like to give customized designs or styles to to inline elements. All right. So the reason why we use span is because span will not change anything. It will not disturb this test. This test will still be a paragraph. It will still work fine. But the span will give you the power to say, I want just this to be different from the whole paragraph, or I want just committed to be different. So another way we can use it, we can also use, let's say your boss says he wants committed to be highlighted. So we can still use span here and copy it, paste it, and then we can style it. Because of CSS gives us a lot of power and control, we can do anything we want. We can say background. This thing always. We can say background color. We can say maybe aqua, whatever, and we can say color. We can say black. So you're going to see that's going to change. You can see right, and we can also change the size of that text to make it more visible. Then we can say font size to 20 pixels. Save it. And you can see it's bigger than all. Wait. Uh, Let me see. 30 pixels. You can see you can see how big it is. It's bigger than the whole of the paragraph, right? So span is more like it gives it more control over an inline text elements, whatever, right? So something like this, you can see that this color is different from this. You can use a span to do that. People even use spans to create buttons. It's powerful. You can use it for almost everything. So that's for spans. And I'm going to talk about attributes. I couldn't talk about HTML without attributes. So you can see that anytime we declare an element or a tag, that there's stuff you can write inside this tag or element, right? They are called attributes. Okay, we have a so many attributes you can add to an element. So like a paragraph like this, I can add a style attribute, then I can style it. I can add a class attribute. I can give it a class. We'll come to that in CSS. I can give it an ID attribute. So attributes are like um, um what the elements can do or what the elements represent. So like in school we say attributes of God. God is love, God is powerful, is omnipotent. It's the same as the what are the attributes of this paragraph. So the attributes are more like what it is or what it can do, or its functions. But with this, you can give it an attribute. You can actually tell that this paragraph should do this, should have this ID, should have this class, should have this styling. You can decide the attribute you want for it. But you cannot change this name. You cannot call it anything you want. This attribute is fixed. But then you can decide how you want it to look or anything. You can customize it. But the name is fixed. So style is you are styling that element. Class is I'm giving it a class name. ID is I'm giving it a specific ID that can be used in the app. So basically, this is just HTML. There's a whole lot of elements. Okay, let me talk about some other one. We have the image. Image is img, right? And you can see with image, it has two attributes: source and out, right? Out is alternative. So source is asking you where is the source of the image you want us to display. So a very easy way to do it, we can even come to top top universe, copy, right click on this is not image. Okay, let me see if I can find an image. This should be an image. So you can see there's an image here. I can say copy link address. That means I've copied the link to this image. And then I can paste the source of that link here. Oh, they're going to Twitter. That's a header for Twitter. Oh, wait, let me see if I can get an image anywhere. Let me see. Okay. So maybe this image. Copy image address, and then we can paste that here. This is very long. Uh, let's save it. So you can see the image is shown here because so the source will tell us where the image is located, and then this will show it. We also have video. We also have video tags, right? This will display video. The same way we did for images, you can paste a video link, and the video is going to be displayed on the page. We also have button. So button is basically buttons, right? Yeah, button. But the confusing part is that people don't use buttons again. They'll just write a span and then they'll style the span to a button. Other people also use buttons and then they'll style it to look like whatever they want. But it's good for you to know that there's a button element in HTML. So when I say this, this is a button, I save it. You can see it here. This is a button. Let me comment this. You can see this is a button. It's showing here. So you can see automatically buttons are styled. They have a gray background, they have a border around it, and then they are black in color. Okay. Um, what element haven't I talked about? What important ones have I not talked about? So now that's for HTML. So another way we can also bring in images that we can bring it. It's not always you can use external links. You can also use internal links. Okay, so let's say we have this image, and then your boss wants to use um, an image on your PC, on your computer or something. So maybe we can copy an image here. Okay, let's use this. So let's say we have this image, and we want to show this image in our website. So we can do that here. So we have to now, the source is telling us where is that image located. So since this image is not an external image, that means that it's not coming from Google Images like a URL somewhere. It's coming from our computer. We have to now use what we call dot notation to actually track where the image is or give us the location of the image. So one dot means that when you use one dot, I think this should be a lesson on this one. One dot means that I'm looking inside the folder where this index.html is, right? So one of those means that I'm looking inside the folder of where this HTML document is. And when I check, I can see the a.png is there, and then I can select it. So that means that the document is right inside there and I can highlight it. If this document was in a folder, let's say it's in a folder called, let me, this is in a folder called images, then I would have to go to the same directory that I am, then go to images. Then in images, I have to look for the file. But now there's nothing in the file, so I have to copy this and put it in the images folder. So now when I go here to images, I can see I have the a.png. And then when I save it, you see the image here. So you can see how it's so big and vast. So that's this where CSS comes in. So CSS will help us style this whole thing and make it look. CSS will help us style this whole thing and make it look more rich, more presentable for a user. Imagine you build a website and things are cluttered this way. Nobody is going to enjoy it. So let me see if I can show you what CSS, how powerful CSS is. So let's say we come here. Where is the CSS? It'll be hard to find because we're using NAX. Uh, yeah, I think this is using. Let me find something that we can easily remove the CSS. That should work fine. View page source. So I want to see show you a site without its CSS elements. Alright. This will just be wait. I think I'll have to find that and show you. But without the CSS, it's going to look more like just plain. It's going to look something more like what we just did here. All right. So that's where the CSS actually comes in and then styles this whole thing, right? Okay, so we now I'm just going to ask some questions. If you have any questions or okay, someone says, what's the function of alternate? Yeah, good. What is it? That's the image, right? The ALT. Okay, so ALT means that if this image, sometimes when you go to some sites and then you have very slow internet, the images are static, they don't load. So alternate is like, what name should I give to this image? Or what should I tell the user if this image fails to load? So I can call this top unit. That means that when this image fails, any any um any day or maybe something happens, this should show. So let me see if yeah, so that is it. Let me have a breakpoint. So we also have break. So break is that break this thing to the next line, break image to the next line. So when you come, you can see image is still attached to the anchor links goggle here. I want image to come down and I want button to also come down because they are not anchor link is not image is not a block level element. It doesn't start on a new line. You can put image inline. So I put two breaks in there and then image is down and then I put another break here also. Then button it up. So you can see the image didn't load. So you see there's the out is there saying top unit. So the out is like an alternative description of what the image is. So in HTML, it's recommended that anytime you create an image, you declare it out. But I mean, many people just put the images there because they are sure the image is going to load because maybe the image is internal, it's not coming from an external source. But if the image is coming from an external source, always provide an alternative. So that if the image doesn't load, it's going to look so without the out, you see, you don't even see the description there. But when you put the alternative there, and the image doesn't load, the user knows that, oh, this is an image. This just didn't load it because of my internet. So I know I'm expecting an image here. So that's what the out actually does. Okay, somebody actually answered that. Deborah, somebody actually answered that on the function of the alternative. Okay. So oh, someone says he wants to know how to use the span to create buttons. Okay, yes, we'll do that. Yes, we do that when we jump in the CSS, we can use that to actually style the span to. It's actually not that difficult. Okay, to only affect the particular word or statement to bring attention to that word. Yeah, yeah, that is it. That's a span. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's another class 8 p.m. If I don't know, yeah, if I'm wrong, but there should be another class. Okay, so yeah, so basically, I don't know if the time is already up, but I think we have some few minutes to jump into CSS. That's the fun part that we are going to see things actually work. So we are going to clean up. Well, we can clean everything if you want, and then let's see if we can remember what we've learned or apply what we've learned. We are going to use Top Universe as an example. So when we go to Top Universe, you can see the whole page has this dark feel. So that's the first thing. So we're going to use CSS to do. Now in CSS, we have inline CSS. Okay, we have inline CSS. We have external CSS, and we have internal CSS, right? So inline CSS is what we just did. So like in the body here, I can style it. So this inline, that means that you are styling the element in line with where the element is declared. So I can say body equals to background color, and I can use some trick to pick the color of top universe. So I can just select here. So these are just like productivity tools, right? So there's a color of, and I can just paste it. And now when I come to my dock here, you can see I have the same color as top universe now. You see how simple it is to actually get things moving fast. So now this is an inline CSS. I can do the same thing by using external CSS, right? Or using internal CSS. So internal CSS, to achieve the same background, we can say something like style. That's it should be in the head. People can also put it after the head. They can also declare a style, but the practical way or the standard way is to put it in the head. So style. Now you have to pay attention to CSS. It's very fun but a little bit tricky. So now everything in here is styles, is CSS. Now you want to style the body. So now we have to find a way to tell the HTML that we are styling this body. Yeah, so we are not using inline. Inline here, we just put style here and then they are gone. So now this is subject to this. But in here, we are styling the whole document, but we want to target just the body. So we can just say body, right? And then we can just use curly bracket, close bracket, and we can say background color red, and we save it, and we come to see the whole background is red. So that is this is a internal way of styling a document. Now these two ways, this internal, inline and internal, are not used mostly. Okay, the most used is the external, because imagine let's say a site like Top Universe, you can imagine how much styles went into this. So if I imagine they're doing it inline, the whole code will be cluttered around, right? And the same way if you're doing this internal, this thing is going to be so long that the code is going to break. So the best way is that you're going to create an external file, do all your styles there, and then link it here. Tell your HTML document that all my styles are in this document, so look for them here. But for now, we are going to just do some quick one in using the internal way and then the inline way. So most people use inline when they quickly want to just style something that they don't, quickly want to get something done, and they use the inline. So that is for styling the different types of way we can style a document or our HTML document. Inline is basically calling the style attribute and then styling it, right? And then internal is putting it here, and then external is creating an CSS document, and then styling it here. So we can do the same thing here. We can say body, and we can say background color is pink. If we save it, nothing is going to happen. If we delete this, nothing is going to happen. It's going to fall back to white because our document still doesn't know about this CSS file. It still doesn't know anything about it. So CSS means that cascading style sheet is just for styling everything. So to tell our HTML that look, all our styles is here, we have to say link, and when we say link, say the attributes to the link. They say what's the link relative to? It's relative to a style sheet. Okay, it just tells the HTML that okay, this link is a style sheet. It's a CSS style sheet, and then href is just where the link is located, and then we know it's in the same folder as the HTML. So we use a dot backslash, and then we can see style.css. So now once we include it here, and then we save, this background thing is going to affect our body. Okay, so the body is a whole element from top to down. So we can see we come back and then it's pink. So the type of okay, somebody asked a question. Okay, so the type of styling here is this external, because the styling is not in the document. The styling is not inside this HTML document. The styling is in its own document called style.css. You can name it anything, but make sure there's a .css to tell HTML that this is CSS styling sheet. All right. So now we wouldn't need this internal one again, and we didn't have to do an inline one again because now we are going to use our external um, CSS. So we go back and copy the top universe color again so that we can have some match. And there we are. So on top universe, we can see that they have a small alert, or can be a small alert, or a top header informative paragraph there. We can create the same thing. We can create the same thing here. So the first thing we need to do, so now inside our body, we can just create a div. So like I said, div is a box. So this here is just a box, all right? And then we can, let's say we copy this. Let's copy this with the icon. Okay. And then inside the box, we have a paragraph. Because this test here is a test. So anytime you're writing a test, put the test into a paragraph to make things more easier. You put it in a paragraph. So we save it, and now we click save. So we come here, and it's there. You just can't see it because the test is dark, and then the background is also dark. You can see is showing there. So now this is where CSS now comes in. So we can see that this text here is white. How do you make ours white? Ours is not visible because it's dark. So we now come here to CS and say P, that is paragraph, right? P. We say color should be white. We can even use white mobile, or white mobile. It's like the very dim color of white, but let's say white. We save it, we come in, and hey, we have it, right? So we are getting there. We are getting there. So we can see it's smaller and then it's centered in the page. So I'm not going to talk about Flexbox. Those are like more of advanced CSS. We're going to use normal CSS to actually do the styling. All right. So you see how we write P here and it styles this. If you write another P here, I'm getting to something. So second paragraph, right? And see second paragraph is also here, and it's also white. But what if we want to make this second paragraph maybe this green color? Let me copy it. I'll come to the style. I just want to get some information across. All right, let's say we want to make it the green color here, this green color, this second paragraph. But now we started and said P. So P is the HTML will say that every element, every paragraph element should be white. So it doesn't matter whether it's this or this is white. Maybe your boss comes and says, look, I want the second paragraph to be green. So how do we now tell CSS that, well, we don't want all the paragraphs, we want just this to be green, but this second paragraph should be, and you want this to be white, this one should be green. And who has an idea on how that can happen? Anybody has an idea? Okay, someone says you use an attribute. Okay, that's intelligent. That's good. We are there. What else? You use an ID or a class. Good. Classes or ID. Good. We can also name the paragraph. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. You guys are good. Okay, so the question is that what other way, what other way can we tell CSS to style the second paragraph? Now we've declared paragraph here to be color white, but now boss says we don't want all the paragraphs to be color white. We just want just this, and then this second paragraph should be green. That's the question. Okay, I think Ayodele has the best answer. We give the tag an attribute such as class or ID. Very perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So I think I'll give the score to Ayodele. Your answer was really detailed and straight to the point. Yeah. So we're going to give it. Yeah, it's called pseudo selectors. Yeah. So you're going to give it a class or an ID. All right. Good, good, good. So now to differentiate between the two, we can give a class here called info, right? To tell us that it has to just tell us that, well, this is a top info, right? And then maybe this for learning purposes, we can give it a class of second paragraph, second P. All right, so that's a class. We can also say ID, second P. We can also say ID also here as top info. So and then all will work. So when we take info, a class is represented in CSS by a dot. Okay, and then we say color yellow, and ID is hash. ID is always harsh, even in numbers and all that. ID is harsh. So let's say ID top sec. We'll say color is red. So let's see what happens. Let's save this. We have yellow and red. You can see that our paragraph white is no more there. The reason is that IDs and classes are more specific. When you give an ID to a paragraph or a class to a paragraph, CSS understands that this is customized. Like you want this to take effect or overwrite. You want this to overwrite the global paragraph. So if I give a third paragraph here, who can guess what color this third paragraph will be? Oh, someone said I didn't get anything. Someone said purple. Where from the purple? What color will the third paragraph be? Looking at the styling we have here from the CSS. What color will the third paragraph be? We have a first paragraph which has a class of top info, ID top info. We have a second paragraph which has a class of second P, ID of second P. We have a styling of paragraph of color white. Class of top info is color yellow. ID is color red. So when you look, when anytime you see a hash, it's an ID. Dot is a class. So when you see a dot, it means that there's a class called top info. So you just have to look here for a class called top info. So now this third paragraph, which has no class, which ID, what color would it be? Oh yeah, Vince the tech guy says white. Ayodele says white. Harunzi says white. Sulia says white. Olukayode says white. Yes. Yeah. GS Graphics says white. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, it's white because it has no selector. Well, it has a selector, but it has no ID or class, right? So it's white because there's a global selector called paragraph, which says white. So that means that all paragraphs will be white. But the reason why top info and second paragraph are not white because they have been customized with IDs and classes, right? So the global color has been overwritten. So that is it. So now let's come to the difference between a class and an ID. So people get this confusing most of the time. So they all do the same thing. They all do almost everything. I remember when I was starting out to learn web development, I was always using IDs. I didn't see no reason to use a class. I said, why should I use a class? I can still select items with IDs. I didn't have any use case for a class until I learned the difference between IDs and class. Okay, so these are the difference. Eh, um, so classes are collective. Now, the simplest way to understand is that classes are collective. So just like in school, when you go to school, they said this is the arts class, this is the business class. Classes are multiple, they consist of multiple of people. Okay, so we have Ayodele, we have Nancy, we have Charles, we have all of you can be in one class and you are subject to one class, one tutor, one lessons, one exams, one everything because you all are in the same class. But remember that every student has an ID. Even though you're in the same class, every student can have an ID. The ID is specific to you. No students can have two identifications. You have one ID number, and when that ID number is um, typed or pointed anywhere in the system, your information will come out because that ID is subject to you. It's the same way for HTML. When I use an ID, I cannot use the same ID on any other element because that is the ID. That is the identification of that element. But when I use a class, example, when I use a top info class, I can still use it here, right? And say these are all top info. Let me remove the IDs first. And I can still style it and then it will work. Okay. Oh, let me comment this out first. Oh, yeah. You see, so classes are collective. That means that you can give classes to multiple elements in one class. So that means that I could have, so think of CSS as a your collection of element styling. So I could have classes of anything, play so many things, and I could style them. I could style them and say everything that has a class of um anything that has a class of let's say M1. So let's say let me use some tailwind. So let's say this has a class of P1. Okay. Okay, let me use PT. No, MT1. It means margin top one. Let's say margin top one. Anything that has this class is going to have a huge space at the top. So let's say MT1, MT1. So I can use the classes for multiple elements and then style them, and they are all going to work on all the elements that have the same class. So that is it. But when I use an ID, there's something specific about that element I want to style. So to get it right, IDs are more like they are used to select elements. So when you're doing JavaScript, when you get to the JavaScript part and you're doing JavaScript and you want to select just one element, a specific element, let's say you want to handpick just this paragraph. That's where you use the ID, because now when you use the class to pick this element, you're going to get one, two, because they all have the same class of top info, top info. But if I give an ID like this, ID, top ID, let's say top ID, right? Good. And I give another ID here as top ID, and let's style it. You see that it's going to affect just one. Okay, so we take. In fact, let me keep this and see. Oh, oh, sorry. Hash. Yeah, one of those things. Oh, top. Wait. Top info, top ID, top ID. Um, okay, I think yeah. So it still styles both, but in JavaScript, when I select get elements by ID, maybe top ID, it's going to give me the first element. I think I confused that with the CSS. I was thinking of in JavaScript terms. Okay, so when I'm doing JavaScript and I say I want to select maybe this specific paragraph, and I say get elements by ID, top ID, because IDs are specific to one element. Okay, it's going to pick the first ID it sees in the document. It's going to start from top. It's going to say get elements by ID. I'm looking for ID called top ID. It's going to start from the top, and once it sees this, it ends. For JavaScript, that's how it works. It's going to end. It's not going to continue to look for any ID again, because an ID is supposed to be one. But when I say get element by class name and I pass top class, it's going to look through the whole document. Once it finds this, it's still going to look, because it knows that classes are collective. Yeah, so that's basically the difference between classes and IDs. So the reason IDs are used more in the JavaScript end when you're selecting element, that's where we actually use it, because in JavaScript you want specific element to do specific things or different things. But I think in the styling, it does the same. It does the same thing. It does the same thing, but in a more way. So when you're using it, make sure that you're not repeating IDs. So like this is wrong. You don't do top ID here. It's not a good way to write your CSS, or to highlight to select your CSS. If you know that there's going to be two names for an ID, use a class instead. IDs should be specific and unique to every element. Yeah. So that's the difference between IDs and classes. I think when you get to JavaScript, you get to see the main gap or difference between these two. But for now, we'll stick to using more of classes because when you're styling, you're going to see only classes mostly. When you see an ID, it means that it's being selected in a JavaScript code somewhere. Let me see if I have. Where do you put underscore this on class? I don't understand the question. Oh, okay. It's just what do you call it? Is it bomber? It's a CSS what do you call it? Like a styling technique people use. You can still use a camel case top info like this if you want. You can name it anything, but don't use special characters like at. It could be names or numbers. You cannot then the test will come first. It could be top one, top 12. It could be anything. Right? You can name it, and it's a class. You can name it anything. But you can't no spaces in between. You can't say top space. I'm sorry. You can't name a class top space class. No. This will see to be two classes. This will see to be you have a class called top, you have a class called class. Hey, sorry, we can't even use class. You can say yeah. You have a you have a class called top and a class called class. So something like that. So that's how it works. So those are the difference between classes and IDs. Use IDs when you know this element is special, is going to be selected specifically for something. And then classes is just a collective of classes for elements and all that. Wow. So how much time do I have? I think we have just 7 minutes. Let's see whether we can get this top thing and this thing styled nicely. So we are going to go back to where we were. This is where we were. When we save everything, we got this right. So let's look at top universe. You can see this thing is styled in the middle, and then the text is smaller. So very simple. So we come to our paragraph. We say font size. I want it to be smaller. Okay, let's see what size they use. You can inspect the code, and once you inspect the code, it's going to highlight it and see font size is 13. It's going to show on the end, so it's 13. Then we can come and use the same thing. See font size should be 13 pixels. Then we save it, and then we can see you can see that it's changed, but because we are using a different font, you think it's not changed, but it has. I use 50 pesos. See how huge it has become. Yeah. So we are not using the same font as them. So with our font, that's how 13 pesos looks like. So we can reduce it to 10 and it becomes much smaller. Okay. And the next thing is that this is positioned in the middle. So in CSS to position something in the middle, you can use text align. There are more advanced ways to do this, but I don't want to go into flex balls and grid and all that. Those are so in a more basic way, you can use text align center. That means it's going to align this text at the center of the page, and you can see it's aligned at the center. Let me remove this for now, so it's more clear. And remove classes are collective. So we have it there. And what else did they use? Yeah, and then we have this join the server. So that's where span comes in. So we can now, so the person will ask, how do we use spans to create a button? So here you are. So you can create a span here and then say join the server, right? And then we say join the, is it, okay, join the server. So that is it. When we save it, we're not going to see any difference. It's just there, right? So now we're going to give it a class called server or join. Which you have to give it join server. So you can see this is more self-explanatory. It explains itself. So when someone is reading your code, remember that when anytime you are writing code, don't assume that it's for you. You're not the only person who's going to use it. Maybe one day you might not be around and somebody might want to edit or debug your code. So you always have to write your code in self in plain English so that someone can just take your code and understand. So you can see join the server. So I know that okay, there's a class called join the server. So now you're giving this a class called join the server. Now let's style that class. So we come in here and we say join server. We always use a dot notation to call a class. So join server, what do we have to do with a join server? We come here. Okay, there's a background, so we have to give it a background. Okay, so there's a background color. We paste the color there. That's one. Second, okay, let's put the background color first. Let's save it. Let's see how it looks. So you can see we are close. We are close. So the next thing is that it seems to be there's a space around it, right? So that's where padding and margin comes in. So I'm going to take a time to explain padding and margin. Is you're going to see it your whole life in your programming career. Okay, so now let me use this to explain the padding. So in you see the space inside. So let's use ours. So you can see with top universe, there's a space inside it. Inside, if you join the server, there's a little space around. So that is called padding. Okay. The space inside is the padding and space outside. So let's say you want it to be a little bit away from the where the icon is, then you use margin. So margin is space outside. So let's say I want this join server thing to be a little bit free. It's too close to this. I want to be a free. I'm going to use margin. So margin. Okay. And then margin, you can do like this, or you can state it directly. What margin? Margin top, left, right, or where? So with this, we need a space to be on the left. So you can say margin left. How much space? So let's see. This is big. 30 pages is too huge. So you can see too much space from this. So that's the margin space outside of the element. So we can say I need just 10 pixels away. Okay, this is good. Let's see. Maybe more and maybe less. Sorry. So we say five. Okay, 6 pixels. That is okay. Now the space inside, you can see this is not too. There's a space inside it, right? So we can even, or there's a space inside it, so we can use the pardon, right? So we can say pardon. So once you declare pardon, you can actually do for the first one is the top, second one is right, third one is bottom, the last one is left. So top pardon, right pardon, bottom pardon, left pardon, right? Good. So 10. So now if all is just 10, then you don't have to give it 10. You don't have to say, you don't have to state all the four corners, right? You can just leave it as one. When you leave it as one, it means that padding all around it. I want 10 pixel all around. So you can see the space in between where this test is. There's a pattern of 10 pixels, and this is too huge. So we can say make it 5 pixels. Then it becomes very small. But let me see. We still need it to be a little small, so we can say 3. Yeah, this is okay. I think our fonts are not the same, so you're not going to get it. The font is not going to look like this, but the styling is almost the same. Now the next thing is the borders. So the borders is the corners. You can see the borders is not sharp like ours. It's not like rectangular, but it's curved. So we can also do that in CSS by saying border radius. Sorry. So radius is the corners, the border, the corners there. And we can say 10 pixels. I think it should be too much. Yeah, it's too much. You can see it's becoming round. So we can say 3 pixels. So we have it there like that. So I think with the padding, there's more space to the left and right than the top and down. So but ours there's no space to the left and right. So that's why we can use that. So we can say the top and down space is okay, 3 pixels. Then left and right can be 7 pixels. Okay, so anytime you use two instead of four, so let me show you the difference. So we have, so I could use this. I could also say there's 3 pixels, 7 pixels. So top is 3 pixels, left is 7 pixels, bottom is 3 pixels, right is 7 pixels. But you could also write this whole thing just like this. That means 3 pixels top and down, 7 pixels left and right. 3 pixels top and down, 7 pixels left and right. So that's how the pattern works. And then the border radius is 3 pixels. So we can see we have it, we have it, we are there. The fonts are not the same, so it's going to be a little bit, and then the space, the top here space is not also the same. But you can see how we are getting there slowly using CSS to style. You can see we did this. And we can see when you hover on this, there's a button. When you hover on RS, there's no button. That's called a cursor, right? So you can see cursor. And then what kind of cursor do you want? You can use pointer. There are other attributes to it. Let me use um there's other CSS pointers you can use. Yeah, I think if you research, you're going to see a lot of different pointers. But the standard professional way is just use this normal pointer. Some use big icons and all that, but this is the standard way. So we use a pointer to say that anytime somebody hovers on it, it should be a pointer. So you can see when I hover, it's a normal select icon. When I hover on it, it becomes like a click icon, right? Good. So when you click on this, it goes to what link? This link. So let's create that. We already talked about links, right? Anchor tags. So we want to tell this now, this span that when the user clicks on this join server, it should go to an external server, just like it happened here. We want the same to happen with ours. Now ours, when you click, nothing happens because it's not an anchor tag. So to do that, we are going to say A, like we did first, is an anchor tag, and then href, where do you want to go when it's clicked? And then we paste the top universe Discord channel, and then we copy this because it should be inside it. Now, when I paste this here and I save it, nothing is going to happen. You can see I'll click, nothing will happen because yeah, it's not inside the tag. Anytime we declare something, it has to be inside. So we copy this join server and we put it inside. We save it. You come and you can see the color has changed because on default, anchor tags underlines its test. So we can change that, but I need to understand that at first. So get the sequence here. You can see that a paragraph, inside the paragraph, we have a span called join server. We've styled it to suit our needs, what we want. And inside that span, we have an anchor tag or a link, an external link that when you click, it goes to something. And you can see that is also in a tag, and we put the join server inside that. So that's how HTML works. Okay. So it works in that form. Anything you want to declare has to be in a tag. So the paragraph has a span, the span has an anchor tag, the div has a paragraph, the body has a div, the HTML has a body. So in that sequence. So now we have it, but now our anchor tag is styled weird for us. So we are going to style it to say, look, leave our anchor tags alone. Don't add any underline. Don't do anything. So we can say A, and we can say test decoration. So here there's something called test decoration, and you can say none. Like don't decorate my test. Don't do it anything. Just leave it alone. So you can see the underline is gone, and then we can also see color. Say inherit. That means that it should inherit the parent's color. If something is inside, so let's say paragraph is a parent, span is a child because span is inside a paragraph. So span is a child, paragraph is a parent. And in here, span is a parent of the anchor tag. Anchor tag is a child. So when I say inherit, it means that inherit the color of its parent. So the color of its parent is what? I think it's white, right? The paragraph is white. So the span doesn't have any color. So what's the color of span's parent? That's paragraph. So it's white. So it's automatically white. And then we have uh, anchor target. So one more thing, when we click, you can see it loads inside. But on top universe, when you click, it routes to the external link. So we can with that we can use an attribute called blank. Sorry, target. Use a target called blank. So target called blank means that where should we target this external link? So in HTML, when you say blank, it means that target it in external tab. Okay. So when we do that, when we come here, you see now it opens in a new tab. All right. So we are going to end today's lesson here. Then maybe in the next lesson we can go on and learn about the different ways to style all these and maybe come down here and then continue and all that. So I think if we can get to style this homepage, I think you'll be well advised to create your own website, with the knowledge you've got from just creating just this one page, because every website looks the same. Once you can move things left, right, center them, style it, give it a color, put an image, you are gone. All you need is a design. Okay, so I'm going to end today's lesson here, and then we'll continue. And then yeah, I think with the knowledge you've got, you can maybe in your spare time you can create something like this by looking on top universe and for inspiration, and then you can build something like this on your own. And yeah, that'll be very much it for today. If you have any questions, you let me know, and then we can say bye for today's lesson. Okay. Okay, padding inside, margin outside. Wow, that's smart. JS graphics, PIMO. Wow, that's a good abbreviation to remember. Padding is inside, margin is outside. Wow, this is good. This is good. This is really good. Like, did I learn something? I mean, I learned something from a student. PIMO, padding inside, margin outside. That's good from JS graphics. Okay, someone says any assignment. Okay, so that's the assignment. Maybe you guys should try and build this, and then you can further, if you have much motivation, you can further on to build the top header. Look at how you can position things to the left of side of things, and then this. So the same way we use the span to build this, you can use the span to build this, but I prefer you use the button so that you understand how buttons work. You understand? Yeah. So this could be, but if you don't have to go too much. You can just do this, you know, and then I'll be proud. I'll be happy. I've gained something today. Yeah, me as well. I know Pimo today. Padding in and margin out. All right. Thanks. Thanks.
So, hi, Charles. So, thank you so much for the class. Thank you. So, we learned a lot from you today.
Oh, great.
Hello, Charles. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Oh, all right. So, I said thank you so much for the class today. It was insightful and I learned something new, even though I'm not a front end engineer. But thank you so much for the class today.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you also for having me.
So, to get all right, thank you so much. So, guys, you can go ahead to follow Charles on Twitter. I would also be dropping his LinkedIn handle on the Discord server, so you can go ahead and follow him. I think Charles, can they reach out to you if they have questions or anything?
Yeah. You can reach out to me personally on LinkedIn. You can send me a message. You can reach out to me on on Twitter. Even if you want to reach out to me on WhatsApp, you can just send me a LinkedIn. I'll send you my number, whatever. And yeah, reach out, ask questions. Let me know you're interested, and then I will help. Yeah.
All right. So I just sent Chang's LinkedIn handle on on the chat, so you can follow him on LinkedIn. His Twitter handle is displayed on your screens. So thank you so much. Thank you, Charles, for your time. So guys, I hope you have learned a lot. We'll see you by 8 p.m. Bye everyone. Bye, Charles.
Bye. Bye.
All right.